You wake up tired. Again. Why? Why, after 8 hours of sleep, do your eyes still burn? Why does the weight on your chest feel heavier than your blanket? Why does your mind feel older than your years? This isn't just physical. This is deeper. This is soul deep. Let me ask you something, and answer honestly. Are you tired, or are you unfulfilled? You go through your day on autopilot. Get up, shower, coffee, commute, work, scroll, sleep, repeat. But do you ever stop to ask, what am I doing with my life? Most people don't. They're afraid of the answer. Because the truth is sharp, unforgiving. You're not just tired, you're disconnected. Disconnected from your purpose, from your values, from yourself. And here's the harsh reality. Sleep can't fix a life that's draining you. He who has a why to live can bear almost any how. Friedrich Nietzsche. But what if you have no why? What if your life is filled with hows, but no reason behind them? Every day becomes a performance, a role you didn't audition for, a mask that fits too well. Wake up, play the part, smile when required, numb when not. Can you relate? Of course you can, because we've all felt it, that gnawing sense that something's wrong, that this can't be it, that life shouldn't feel like slow suffocation. But here's the trick your brain plays. It tells you this is normal, that everyone's tired, that this is adulthood, that meaning is a luxury. Lie. Chronic exhaustion isn't normal. It's a signal, a red flag your soul is waving, screaming. This isn't who I am. Carl Jung would call this a rupture with the self, a splitting off from your authentic identity. And you feel it every morning. You feel it when your feet touch the floor and you sigh. When you brush your teeth while staring at a stranger in the mirror. When you ask, is this all there is? This isn't burnout. This is existential fatigue. And here's what most motivational content won't tell you. No amount of hustle, cold showers, or 5 a.m. wake-up calls can save a life that lacks alignment. You don't need more discipline. You need more truth. So let's start there. Let's stop pretending your tiredness is just from work or stress or not enough magnesium. Let's admit the real reason. You've built a life that looks good on paper, but feels like a lie in your chest. That's why you're tired. Not because you're weak, but because your soul is starving. And it's whispering to you every morning, hoping you'll finally listen. But you don't, because listening would require change, courage, honesty. You'd have to admit your job, your relationship, your city, maybe your whole identity isn't right. You'd have to face the terrifying possibility. You've spent years climbing the wrong mountain. Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Well, consider this your alarm clock, a call to consciousness, not the kind you snooze, but the kind that shakes you, because you deserve more than just rest. You deserve renewal. And it starts with one simple, terrifying question. Am I truly living the life I want, or just the one I settled for? So don't just drink more coffee. Don't just wait for Friday. Look inside, because that tired feeling, it's not a symptom, it's a warning. Let's not sugarcoat it. Waking up tired is not just about sleep. It's not about your mattress, your blue light exposure, or your caffeine tolerance. It's about misalignment, alignment between your life and your soul. And when those two are out of sync, you suffer. Not just in your energy levels, but in your spirit. And here's the cruel part. You don't even notice it happening. Not at first. It begins subtly. You feel off, foggy. You zone out in conversations. Your laughter feels forced. You look in the mirror and something is missing. Not something on your face, something behind your eyes. You've lost direction. You've lost fire. People don't lack strength, they lack will. Victor Hugo. But maybe it's not willpower that you've lost. Maybe it's clarity. You used to dream big. Now you plan small. You used to wake up with ideas. Now you wake up with anxiety. That's the symptom. That's the sign. You've stopped asking where you're going because you're afraid to admit you don't know anymore. Let's get brutally honest. When was the last time you felt truly alive? Not just entertained, not just distracted. Alive, engaged, present, on fire inside. If you can't remember, that's not normal. That's not adulthood. That's detachment from purpose. Carl Jung believed that the psyche demands wholeness. And when we split from our deeper self, from our calling, the psyche revolts. That revolt shows up in symptoms. Chronic fatigue, restlessness, apathy, anxiety, depression, not always as illness, sometimes as intuition. Your soul is tapping on the glass saying, This is not my life. But you silence it with busyness, with screens, with alcohol, with work. You drown out the scream with distraction. But the tiredness remains, because it's not physical, it's existential. You are not here to survive your week. You are not here to pay bills and die quietly. You are here to evolve, to create, to connect, to live as someone whole. But somewhere along the way, you compromised. You chose safety over growth, stability over passion, comfort over truth. And now you're trapped, in a job that pays but doesn't fulfill, in relationships that are convenient but not soulful, in routines that numb but don't nourish. You've lost your way. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Carl Jung. And that's what your tiredness is trying to tell you, that you've strayed too far from who you really are. You traded your fire for security, your soul for approval, your uniqueness for belonging. But belonging means nothing if it costs you yourself. Ask yourself, would the younger version of me be proud of who I've become? Would they see a warrior or a ghost? You don't have to stay lost, but you do have to stop pretending you're not. You do have to admit, this path isn't working, because the tiredness is just the surface. Underneath is grief. Grief for the life unlived, the potential ignored, the dreams abandoned. That grief turns into exhaustion, and the more you ignore it, the heavier it becomes. But here's the hopeful truth. Exhaustion is a map. Pain is a compass. It's showing you something. It's not just what you're doing that's draining you. It's what you're not doing. You're not being true, not being bold, not being free. You're censoring yourself to fit in, to please others, to maintain peace. But peace without authenticity is just quiet suffocation. So what do? You stop. You listen. You follow the thread of what makes you come alive, even if it terrifies you, especially if it terrifies you. Because that fear, that's the edge of growth, and growth is the cure. Not another vacation, not more sleep, not another productivity hack, but radical alignment to your values, to your vision, to your voice. You don't need a new morning routine. You need a new direction, and it begins with one brave admission. I'm off course. Once you say that, really say it, things begin to change. Not all at once, but with honesty comes energy. With courage comes clarity. So stop numbing, start noticing, and remember, waking up tired isn't just something to fix. It's something to feel, to face, to follow. Because maybe, just maybe, that exhaustion isn't your enemy. Maybe it's your guide. There's a voice inside you. You know it. It's the one that speaks in moments of stillness, late at night, in the quiet between meetings, in the pause after someone asks, "How are you really?" It is not loud, but it is persistent, and you've been ignoring it. This is the inner conflict, the silent war between the life you're living and the life that wants to live through you. You think you're just tired, distracted, busy, but beneath the surface, a far deeper struggle is playing out. You are divided. On one side, the self you show the world, composed, competent, pleasant. On the other, the self you hide, frustrated, curious, yearning. This is not weakness. It's the very structure of the human psyche, as both Carl Jung and Friedrich Nietzsche tried to teach us. Jung described this conflict as the tension between the persona and the shadow, the curated mask versus the disowned truths. Nietzsche saw it in the battle between the Apollonian, order, control, reason, and the Dionysian, chaos, passion, instinct. Both agreed, to live authentically, you must confront the parts of yourself you've suppressed. But confrontation is uncomfortable. So instead, you compromise. You keep peace on the outside while unrest grows on the inside. And each time you deny your deeper desires, your truer values, your real emotions, you fuel the conflict. It doesn't go away. It just becomes quieter, more corrosive, more exhausting. You wake up tired not because your body is broken, but because your spirit is at war. What is the conflict trying to tell you? That you've said yes too often when you meant no. That you've prioritized approval over authenticity. That you followed a script that was never truly yours. Think of all the moments you betrayed your own truth. Smiling when you were angry, staying when you wanted to leave, agreeing when you deeply disagreed. These small acts of self-abandonment collect in your body. Over time, they become fatigue. They become anxiety. They become numbness. And you tell yourself you're just tired. But tiredness is often the body's final protest to a soul that's been unheard. Jung said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." Why terrifying? Because accepting yourself fully means confronting everything you've hidden. The dreams you buried, the rage you swallowed, the needs you minimized, the parts of you that didn't fit into the mold others built for you. To integrate those parts is to step into your wholeness. But wholeness is not comfortable. It requires dismantling the persona you spent years constructing. It requires risking rejection, failure, and transformation. So you ignore the voice. You label it irrational. You drown it in productivity, in relationships, in entertainment. Anything but stillness. But the voice does not go away. It grows stronger in silence. It waits. And when you wake up tired again tomorrow, it will ask, how much longer will you pretend? This is the moment of choice. You can continue performing, or you can begin listening. Listening means acknowledging the gap between who you are and who you pretend to be. It means asking, what do I truly want? What do I truly believe? What do I need to become whole? You might not have the answers right away. That's okay. The point is not to solve the conflict immediately. The point is to stop denying it exists. Because pretending has a cost. Every time you silence your inner truth to maintain outer harmony, you drift further from yourself. And that distance becomes fatigue, confusion, and disconnection. There is no shortcut to integration. There is only honesty and courage. Nietzsche believed the individual must create their own values, their own purpose, by facing life's inherent chaos and forging meaning through strength of will. But that strength only emerges through struggle, through confronting the inner contradictions and forging coherence from conflict. That's your task now, to stop running from the discomfort, to meet your contradictions with compassion, to stop asking, how do I get rid of this tiredness? And start asking, what is this tiredness trying to tell me about who I've become? When you stop ignoring the inner conflict, you begin to heal. Not by choosing one side of yourself over the other, but by integrating them both. The persona and the shadow, the order and the chaos, the public face and the private pain. This is the journey toward authenticity, toward energy that doesn't come from caffeine, but from congruence. From knowing you are no longer betraying yourself to make others comfortable. Jung wrote, wholeness is not achieved by cutting off a portion of one's being, but by integration of the contraries. You don't need to become someone new. You need to become all of who you are. And to do that, you must first stop ignoring the inner conflict. Start listening. Start telling the truth. Start choosing alignment over performance. The exhaustion will begin to fade, and in its place, clarity, conviction, and the quiet power of finally coming home to yourself. There is a moment when you open your eyes in the morning and feel nothing. No excitement, no dread, just a blankness, a silent absence of meaning. You aren't in pain. You aren't even restless. You're simply vacant. And that vacancy is terrifying, because it means something deeper has withered, something that sleep can't restore, something your routine can't disguise. You wake up and feel like a ghost in your own life. And for a brief second you wonder, is this all there is? That question isn't weakness. It's the beginning of awakening. Waking up dead inside is not a failure. It is not laziness or depression or apathy in isolation. It is your soul's quiet protest. You were not made to live numbly. You were made to feel, to hunger, to ache, to pursue. So what do you do when your spirit feels extinguished? You begin by doing the most radical, most inconvenient thing. You stop pretending. Stop pretending that everything is fine. Stop pretending that going through the motions is enough. Stop pretending that the emptiness is just a phase. It's not. It's a message. Carl Jung said, we cannot change anything until we accept it. Condemnation does not liberate, it oppresses. So the first act is not change. The first act is honesty. Admit that something is broken. Admit that you are not okay. Admit that the spark has gone out and you don't know how to relight it. This is not weakness. This is courage. You are standing at the edge of a psychological death. The death of the persona that no longer serves you. The death of the narratives you've outgrown. The death of the life you built for the wrong reasons. Nietzsche would say this is necessary. The destruction of the false self precedes the creation of the true one. He called it the revaluation of all values. Everything you believed, everything you chased, everything you called success, it must be re-examined. Because if it brought you here, to this emptiness, perhaps it was never yours to begin with. So what do? You return to the basics, but not the surface-level routines. You return to the fundamentals of being. Presence, truth, meaning. You ask questions without demanding immediate answers. What did I once love before the world told me what to want? What values do I pretend to live by? And what values do I actually live by? What would I do if I wasn't afraid? This is the excavation of the self. And yes, it's uncomfortable, because you will uncover grief for time lost, for parts of yourself abandoned, for truths ignored. But in that grief, something stirs. Not happiness, not yet, but the beginning of meaning. You will not fix your life overnight. That's not the point. The point is to turn toward yourself instead of away. The point is to stop numbing the emptiness and start understanding it. Most people rush to fill the void with distractions, work, consumption, achievement. But the void doesn't want to be filled. It wants to be met. And when you meet it, honestly, without flinching, you will find that it is not a void at all. It is the space where your true self waits to be reclaimed. You begin by taking small but sacred steps. Say no when you mean no. Tell the truth, especially to yourself. Create something, not for likes or money, but for the sheer act of becoming alive. Walk in nature without a destination. Sit in silence without distraction. Write down your thoughts without editing. These are not solutions. They're invitations. Invitations to reconnect with the part of you that still breathes beneath the numbness. Because here's the truth. You are not dead inside. You are buried. Buried beneath roles, expectations, disappointments. Buried beneath the life you thought you should live. But you are still there, waiting. Carl Jung said, "Your vision will become clear only when you look into your heart. Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes." This is your moment of awakening, not with fireworks or sudden epiphany, but with the quiet decision to live again, to care again, to feel again, even if it hurts, especially if it hurts, because that pain means something is still alive inside you, something that refuses to settle, something that refuses to die. You don't need to escape your life. You need to rebuild it, brick by brick, choice by choice, on foundations that matter. Purpose, honesty, courage. This isn't the end of your story. It's the turning point, the chapter where you stop surviving and begin living. You may wake up tired tomorrow. You may still feel empty, but now you know that emptiness is not your enemy. It is your teacher. It is your call to transformation. And if you answer it, if you rise and face the numbness, not with shame but with curiosity, you will find slowly that the deadness begins to lift. Not because something outside changes, but because something inside you wakes up. The soul is not gone. It's waiting. And now, finally, you're listening.